Hey GameSpot viewers, this is Senior Editor Kevin Van Orden. I'm sitting here with Mike Reed. You are a producer on Crysis 3.
Well, this is correct.
And we are going to take a look at some demo footage here. And why don't you go ahead and set us up for what's happening in the Crysis story that's setting up what we're going to see today.
So back at E3, we showed a segment on Canyon, which is actually the third segment in Crysis 3, and this takes us back a step to the first time we come into the Dome. And the first time we come into the Dome, and we're alongside someone who's well known in the Crysis series by the name of Psycho, who's just come and busted Prophet out of incarceration where he's been for many years. And Psycho's been working with this rebel group, and it's really part of, this is sort of the introduction in the first time we come inside the Dome, and an introduction to Psycho himself.
So what is the purpose of the Dome here? That, you know, we're here in the Dome, but what is happening under the Dome, and why does the Dome exist?
So there's two segments as to why the Dome exists. So the first one being that after the events of Crysis 2 and Alcatraz, so what happened was the Cell Corporation took all the credit for what happened during that time, and basically they came out, did a bunch of press releases and said, hey, we're going to protect you guys from the alien threat, and we're going to contain them inside this dome. But there's actually something deeper going on in here, in that Cell, over the course of this 20 plus years since Crysis 2, has managed to take over the world's energy resources. And in doing so, contained under this dome specifically, there's a bunch of domes worldwide, but this being the Liberty Dome contained over New York City, there's a bigger power going on here that has to do with Cell and the rebels. But and when we're talking about Prophet is actually having these other visions, and the nanosuit over the course of time has become infected with alien DNA. So there's some other additional story elements past the Cell Corporation and moving into what's going on inside the dome itself.
Now, just in time for Prophet to pick up this clearly alien weapon to take down these long-range the long-range weapons on that tower up there.
Yeah, so this is one of the other alien weapons that we're bringing into the game, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that sooner. But we have talked in the past that there is going to be 5 alien weapons total in the game that will be able to be retrieved off of some dead stuff and at various points throughout the game. And they operate similar to like heavy weapons and stuff, and they basically can only be used while you're holding that weapon specifically.
And nice move, by the way, there with the bow. You see, for example, using the shock ammo to electrocute those dudes down there. What other kinds of ammo would you be seeing with the bow? So
yeah, we really wanted to give people, a chance to interact with the environment itself, and coming back to some elements we had in Crysis 1 of, destructible items and things like that, and also with the case of what you saw with the electric arrow being able to zap people in the water. So we have explosive arrows, we have electro arrows, we have air burst, which is like a proximity frag, and then the standard arrow tips themselves. And then you can also change the draw weights on the arrows as well, or on the bow, sorry.
And now we're entering this area, which recalls a lot of the verticality of Crysis 2. Is that something that you strive to maintain going into Crysis 3? Is that sense of verticality and being able to move upwards and downwards throughout the level? Yeah, so for sure. I mean, some levels definitely have some more vertical movement in them, but what we really wanted to create when we're in outdoor spaces, as you saw earlier, the wide open space that you have to deal with there, but even on some of the indoor elements too, that you have the space to move around, not just on a vertical plane, but on a horizontal plane as well. Now we see some trouble with turrets here, and in this case, the demo is showing a very straightforward way of handling those turrets. But there are other ways of approaching those turrets. What might some of those be? Right. So we really wanted to provide action sequences that are dynamic in a lot of ways, and how the player wants to approach them, and not just running in and destroying it, but also being able to use the suit mechanisms to hack it, or and in some cases, players may want to try to cloak and go around that itself. So everybody's going to have a different experience depending on how they want to approach the action itself. And in terms of the returning nanosuit, we'll still see the usual mechanisms, the cloaking, heavier armor, jumping, and so forth.
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of those systems. Some of those systems have actually been a little more integrated, like sprinting, for instance, no longer uses energy. And that's actually changed in the multiplayer side as well. We've also gone back and revamped the nanosuit upgrade systems as well, so that it's combinations and nanosuit kits, no longer collecting nano catalysts from dead aliens as well. And then, of course, the visor modes and what you can do with that in terms of hacking and nanovision and those staples of the Crysis series.
Now you've also, you know, we're back in New York, of course, but it's definitely a greener New York than we saw in Crysis 2. It's a sort of a combination of jungle and urban jungle. What is some of the, you know, what's sort of the look that you're going for in the sense of place here?
So it's kind of a mix of both. I mean, we wanted to take, we came back to New York for storyline reasons and what's going on here. And we really wanted to take both sides from Crysis 1 with the jungle environments and Crysis 2 and kind of combine those elements into what we've talked about as the Seven Wonders, which breaks down into a few different areas, which we've shown. We've shown Swamp, which was back at the initial launch. We've shown Canyon, which was for our Dam Busters demo, and then Fields for this one as well. So each of the different areas has kind of moved in and allowed for our designers to kind of go wild in the way that they've put these together, and of course providing players with a different experience through each of the zones they'll pass through.
Well, Mike, thanks for stopping by. That brings us to the conclusion of the Crysis 3 demo. Obviously, we're looking forward to playing more when the game arrives.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.